Welcome to this video. This video is related to the hypothesized Younger Dryas meteorite impact 12,800 BP years ago hypothesis, which comes closest to the consensus interpretation of the facts. In some way they go for this hypothesis because there is no other sensible explanation for events that happened more or less 12,800 years BP and that caused inclusively the Younger Dryas Ice Age. For me, this is part of soft evidence. This video is part of soft evidence I will provide in favor of my Johannes Mallants hypothesis that the meteorite proxies are an essential part of the turnover events of the world by the Amerind hybrids, and that we modern humans are the result of. My GM arguments against the meteorite impact hypothesis are: the supposed Younger Dryas events are spread over a period of 1000 years or more, and certain meteorite impacts obviously cannot take or sustain 1000 years or more. Our solar system is moving with an average velocity of 720,000 kilometers per hour. So the impact, the Younger Dryas impact, is on several continents, let's say 12 hours apart, and so in these 12 hours the Earth would have, let's say, raced through our galaxy at 720,000 kilometers multiplied by 12, that is 10 million kilometers further it would be. The selectiveness of the supposed impacts on locations that were, and mostly still are, strategic, and where mesolithic groups were present at the time of the event, like the Clovis culture. So the impacts seem to be on these locations where turnover event take or will take place, like for instance the turnover of the Clovis culture, and at the same time on the locations where the future cradles and roots of haplogroups like R1, in some videos I call them the boomers, haplogroups that will take over and dominate Western Eurasia and other parts and continents of the world, roughly about the continents that receive the hypothesized meteorite impacts. So it looks like the meteorite impacts and the proxies to meteorite impact are selective on where they strike, so to say. So needless to say that the arguments that I use are in favor of my hypothesis that The events and the proxies of the meteorite impact are part of turnover events of the world by Amerind hybrids. And modern humans and the Y-DNA and mtDNA mosaic discussed in other videos are the result of it. So now about the article. It claims evidence of cosmic impact at Abu Hureyra, Syria, at the Younger Dryas onset. As you see, they mention more or less 12,800 years ago, because that's the time that this Younger Dryas meteorite is hypothesized. And there's evidence of high temperature melting at 2200 degrees Celsius, and that's the reason why they claim it can be only from a meteorite, because at that time humans should not be capable to produce such high temperatures to have these proxies to meteorite impact as a result. So this map is from the article, and that's very interesting, because here is Iraq, so the Tigris and the Euphrates are here, and Syria, or the point, this Abu Hureyra, is very close to a channel that is linked to the Euphrates. That's what I mean. It's on very strategic places. Why should a meteorite hit on strategic places? Of course, some can argue against me and say that's the places we investigated, that we researched on, but that's not true, because there's a lot of places that are geologically analyzed all over the world. It's not just historical Neolithic or Mesolithic places that are researched. This is the link to the article in Nature, and these are the authors. There's a list of the authors, and this was the result of the search that I did. And the event is proposed to have created the Younger Dryas Boundary layer, and there's images presented which I will not show here. You will find them in the article mentioned above, but they show pictures of glass and Trinitite. And just for you to have a reference, Trinitite is a formation that occurred after the first atomic bomb impact, and that got the name because of the place in the United States where the bomb was tested. It was not thrown from a plane or missile or whatever, it was on a tower. It was an explosion on a tower. This image is linked to the article. It's not my image. If you would ever research or read the article, you probably will recognize this image. So here's the abstract. I will quote a few things. So this layer, they always talk about the Younger Dryas boundary, contains peak abundances in melt glass, as I mentioned, nanodiamonds, which is carbon. Glass is not carbon. Nanodiamonds, also formed with nuclear explosions, probably or possibly with meltdown. Microspherules and charcoal. And charcoal, they explain because the vegetation, etc., that burned, and I explain it this way as well, but also keep open the possibility that it was related to the metallurgic activities of the invaders of the Amerind hybrids, the one that will turn over the existing cultures, mesolithic cultures, like in the case of the United States, the Clovis cultures. These are some of the elements, and in the article they use it as an argument that it comes from a meteoritic impact, and I claim it is or from the metallurgic activities or from the explosion that I will explain in a minute. So GM, Johannes Mallants, for me the exogenic material is brought by the haplogroup, which are probably the descendants from the Y haplogroup, R, that is the initiating, that is executing the initiating of the or a coming population turnover event. So for this hypothesis, it's a meteorite, and for me it's all the results of a coming population turnover event that we modern humans are the result of, or from the metallurgic activities of the invaders. This is my part of my hypothesis. In their blast furnaces, there's evidence for it. I've seen images from researchers that reconstructed them after turnover, or from explosives that formed Trinitite, as is also was formed the first time in the first atomic bomb experiment in 1945 in the United States. And in my hypothesis, certain explosives are used in favor of the turnover event, and they are used by the invaders. You will find this in the article that I gave the reference of. At the same time, it's very interesting, there's massive megafaunal extinction and human population declines, and they explain it because of the, let's say, the destruction by the meteorite, and I explain it by the elimination of humans, of Mesolithic cultures, because of the turnover event by the invaders, which we are the descendants of. There also was climate change, and in the article it caused the prehistoric villages to transition from hunting and gathering to cultivation to agriculture. But for me is that the supposed hunter-gatherers were eliminated by the turnover event, and the new comers that came from the Americas, the haplogroup R, are the one that thrive or depend on agriculture. And for them it's a transformation that has to do with a meteorite, and for me it's a transformation that is the consequence of a turnover event. So the materials that are found are not common, are rare on Earth, but common in meteorites. But they are rare on Earth. They are brought there or for the metallurgic purposes or for the explosives that I explained, that were used in favor of the turnover event. And they say that that village and other villages were destroyed, and I say that a meteorite cannot be selective and cannot be spread over time as much as 1000 years. So it's a turnover event of the world can of course take 1000 years. In fact, it took much more than that. It took at least until the until a certain collapse 3100 years ago. Late Bronze Age collapsed 3100 years ago, when the turnover was almost 100% completed. They argue that the distance that similar events took place, as far as Piloco, Chile, they use it as an argument that it must have been a meteorite impact, and I explain that that is a proof against such an impact, because the rotation of the Earth, to rotate from one continent to the other, would take 12 hours, and it's roughly 1 million kilometers per hour that the Earth and the solar system moves through our galaxy. So for them it's an argument in favor, and for me it's one of the arguments against the meteorite impact hypothesis. And as said, they come from the Americas, and so it's the same activities that they bring over to Eurasia and other continents they first practiced in the Americas. The fundamental markers of migration and ancestrality prove that all humans, including the modern humans, come from the Americas. This about the site. It's a mound settlement, which is typically for amerinds. In this region it's known as a tell, and a mound settlement is something typical for amerinds in the Americas. The bedrock beneath the village is limestone, which is one of the materials that these hybrid amerinds use a lot during their invasion and turnover event of the world. Again, the location, Tigris Euphrates, and it is at the headings or close to the headings of the Euphrates. Thank you for watching this video. Bye.